I'm speaking now with soprano Rebecca Evans, who I heard for the first time just a week ago in the birthday concert for Sir Charles Mackerras, and then the following night in the role of Zerlina in Don Giovanni. And I have to tell you, I was absolutely dazzled by your voice, as was everybody else in the audience. We enjoyed it very much, and I'm very pleased to have you on the program. In singing, there are probably as many different categories for singers as there are voices. How would you characterize your voice, other than a very beautiful velvety soprano?
Well, apparently it has a typical Welsh colour. Being from South Wales and born in the same village that the actor Richard Burton was born, it's probably something contained in the drinking water. But I have so people say, a dark quality to my voice, but there's a brightness there as well. And when you listen to many other Welsh singers, such as Sir Geraint Evans and Margaret Price, Gwyneth Jones, they have this warm, unique colour to their voices that makes them quite distinguishable.
Tell us a little bit about the vocal challenges involved in singing the role of Zerlina.
Well, it was the first time I'd sung this part, and I always find the first time very terrifying, because you open the score and it looks fine when you see all these hundreds and hundreds of little dots and all these terribly difficult Italian words. And I think I've enjoyed singing Mozart more than anything, and people say it's probably what suits me most at this stage of my career, and I think it's a very healthy thing for young singers to sing anyway. But my first aria, in fact my first entrance, the Giovinetti che fate all'amore, is so difficult to sing because there are so many words, and the speed of it and the pitch of it is so terribly difficult, and I know a lot of singers have difficulty there. So, I take it to my teacher and say, please help me. How do I do this bit? And, every section is a challenge, really, and the recitative is a challenge, making it fluent and liquid, really, Mm-hmm. You have to sound as if you understand every word you're singing. I mean, we do understand what we're singing.
Sure, right.
We have to, because otherwise we couldn't bring our characters to life and be true to them. But I think recitative is probably the most difficult challenge, and finding this beautiful legato line that you need for Mozart. Something you really have to work hard at. I know I need to work hard at it, as I'm sure most other singers do too. But it's great, you need to have something to work towards. You need a goal.
People refer to Mozart as being very healthy for the voice. Actually, many times after singing big roles, they come back to Mozart to sing it just because it's sort of a rejuvenation for the voice in some ways. Do you find that true?
Definitely, and the more you sing a role, recently I sang the part of Elia in Idomeneo, which I'd first sung in 1991. It was in fact the first part I ever played, with Charles Mackerras conducting for the Welsh National Opera. And I found it difficult, and 4 years on, I thought, gosh, this is actually much easier to sing now than it was then. And you come off stage at the end of an evening, and even if you've sung Susanna in Marriage of Figaro, which is the longest role, and you still feel vocally fresh, whereas I'm sure if I'd sung a Puccini role, which I don't incidentally, but if I had, I don't think I'd be able to speak for 3 days. Because the orchestral size for Mozart is so sensible, and it isn't a terrific fight or a battle to get over the orchestra. And also we're very lucky here, and to have Maestro Donald Runnicles conducting, because he's a great singer's conductor.
Well, for all the challenges that there are in the part, the way you sing it, it comes out sounding as if it's the easiest thing in the world to sing.
Thank you. I really enjoy this part, I must say. She's a great challenge.
It seems that way on stage.
Yeah.
It looks like you're having a great time, actually.
I do, and I've been so lucky, because this is my first Zerlina, my first Don Giovanni, and I've sung this opera with probably the 2 greatest Don Giovannis in the world, so that's not bad, really, is it?
It must be fun to do the La Ci Darem duet.
It's wonderful, absolutely wonderful.
How is Samuel Ramey to work with?
Oh, great. Really good colleague. I'd actually met him a couple of years ago. I did a recording with him. He was doing a recording of Rossini arias, and I was asked to sing in, I did the mezzo part in the mezzo sister from Cenerentola, actually.
Right.
So you know, that was the first time I'd met him, and then I met him in a party in New York, and now working with him here has been really great. He was very supportive and absolutely delightful.
Let's talk a little bit about some of your recordings. You have a new recording that you just brought with you of the Purcell work, Dido and Aeneas. Yes. Tell us a little bit about that, if you would.
Well, we actually made a film of it as well, which is on worldwide video release, which was shown on the 300th anniversary of Purcell's death. Or was it his birth? I can't remember.
I think it's the death, actually.
I think it is, isn't it? And they decided they really wanted to do something to commemorate that anniversary. So, along with Maria Ewing in the title role of Dido, and Carl Morgan Damon, another Welsh singer from the same village as me, I have to say, we made this film. And, of course, a wonderful supporting cast as well. And Richard Hickox conducted. And great television director Peter Manura directed the production. And I'd sang it before, and I'd sang it in the pit with the Mark Morris Dance Company dancing it in the Edinburgh Festival. So it was actually really nice to try out this character, and particularly, you know, it'll be on film forever now.
That's great.
So it'll be something my mother will enjoy looking at least.
Right, that's great. What should we play as far as an excerpt from it? What would you recommend?
I think my favourite part of it is probably Thanks to These Lonesome Vales, because the music is, I mean, the whole piece is sublime. You couldn't take a note out of it, because it is, in my opinion, a masterpiece, and every note belongs in exactly the right position.
You've also made a recording of the opera by Vaughan Williams, Hugh the Drover, which is a very interesting piece, and as far as I know, this is the first modern recording of it anyway. Right. Tell us a bit about that.
I believe there is only one other recording, isn't there? And they decided that it was about time another one was done, because it really is a masterpiece. Again, I'm so enthusiastic about everything I sing because I love music, I live and breathe it, and I always find it a great pleasure to be able to perform this music. But Hugh the Drover is very special. I'm a Vaughan Williams fanatic anyway, and I just find his harmonies and his characterizations are just wonderful, really wonderful. And of course the story is so romantic, really is.
Tell us about your part.
My part, I'm Mary, and I'm engaged to John the Butcher. And of course suddenly Hugh the Drover turns up and they immediately fall in love with each other. It's love at first sight. I wonder if it really happens in real life. Perhaps it does, but it nearly always happens in opera. And of course, John the Butcher and Hugh the Drover have a huge fight, which is basically over Mary. And Hugh is chained, and Mary goes at night and undoes the locks on his chains and tries to set him free. But of course, people arrive, and then suddenly a policeman arrives and says, "Oh, you know, actually, Hugh isn't a bad man, he's a good man." And, you know, Mary just goes off with him. She just follows her heart. She's a very honest character. And her music is very, very beautiful and very typical of her character. It's warm, very warm, and very passionate. Their love duet is just glorious.
Well, that sounds like something we ought to hear then. Why don't we hear a little bit from the love duet? And this is from which act?
I think it's Act 2. I don't know why I always end up recording something that is, I won't say obscure, but I'm never asked to do the more sort of run-of-the-mill things. I'm always asked to do something slightly different.
Well, a lot of times there are so many recordings of things that you just kind of get inundated with that, and when something like Hugh the Drover comes out, it immediately grabs your attention, because it is something new and a little different. And you have a recording that's coming out shortly, or perhaps is out already, of the Italian art songs. And these, as we were saying about the Mozart, these are very useful pedagogical tools for the voice, as well as being beautiful music.
Yes.
It must be a real challenge recording those pieces.
Yes, it is. Again, they were probably some of the first songs I ever learnt when I was just starting my singing lessons when I was 17 or 18. And it's quite the opposite now, you know. They were so easy to sing in those days, and now they're so terribly difficult. Because I think at 16 or 17, one has no inhibitions about anything, and you go for a top note and sing it as loudly as you can. And now one needs to be more refined, and you need to be far more careful with your Italian language, with your phrasing. So, yes, it's a challenge. But some beautiful music.
They really are. They're such a wonderful set that these being essentially exercises for the voice in a lot of ways, but they're also incredibly beautiful music at the same time.
That's right. I put them in the same category with voice as I would Mozart, actually. You know, and they're like a vocalese. They really are. They really are.
Which, pick a couple of your favorites off the recording.
Well, I think probably my favourite group is the Bellini Sei Ariete, and Ma Rendi Pur Contento is my very favourite.
You also have a recording out of The Marriage of Figaro, in which you sing the role of Barbarina.
Yes.
How is that different from Zerlina?
Well, of course, the part is much shorter. She doesn't appear in the first 2 acts of the opera. She just appears in Act 3, whereas little Zerlina, even though there are only 2 acts, you know, she's right through it. But I was very glad to do this recording of Zerlina with Sir Charles in the Edinburgh
Barbarina.
Festival. Oh, sorry. I was very glad to do this recording of Barbarina with Sir Charles in the Edinburgh Festival because I was studying the role of Susanna at the time, and just being around the opera and listening to other people, to the Italians doing the recitative, and just familiarising myself with the ensembles and everything, and it helped me tremendously in my preparation for the role of Susanna, which I then continued to do with Iliana Cotrobasci and Graziella Sciutti, because I'm a firm believer in going to these great singers who are developing into the most wonderful teachers and who know these characters inside out. And, you know, maybe you don't take everything on board that Iliana Cotrobasci says or whatever Graziella Sciutti says, but you take what you need for your character. You can't possibly duplicate their moves or, you know, their emotions, because we're all so differently made up. Right. But it's very interesting just to take something from there, something your teacher says, and of course what you ultimately feel, to put it all together and finally have your character. It's great.
There are any number of roles that would suit your voice beautifully. What would you have in mind? What role would you like to play most?
I think ultimately this will probably be 10 years into my career, further on into my career. I like to sing Mimi in Bohème.
Oh, yeah.
I won't attempt to go any further than that, where Puccini is concerned, because I haven't got that kind of voice. But for now, I'd like to sing Nanetta in Falstaff, and Adina, L'Elisir d'Amore would be another one. And I'd love to have a crack at the Cunning Little Vixen.
Oh, yeah.
She's such fun, and I feel she's quite close to my character, really, you know. I'd like to think she was anyway, except I'll have to be on a diet for months before.
No. And certainly you'd like to sing the role of Susanna.
Yeah, I've actually performed it twice. I sang it in Santa Fe in the summer of 1995, and previously for Welsh National Opera. It's funny with that role. I remember my father bought me a recording when I was 11 of, it was Carl Böhm's recording with Edith Mattis singing Susanna, Gundula Janowitz singing the Countess. And the first time I heard it, I knew I would sing that role. And I think when I came to prepare the part, I didn't have to study the notes, because I knew the notes from listening to it over the years. You know, I just had to work very hard on the Italian text. But of course, I wanted to be a singer when I was 18. But fortunately, my father had a lot of common sense and decided that. Well, he didn't decide. We discussed what would be best for me, because I did sciences at school. You see, I didn't do arts. I did or music. So I became a nurse for 5 years and took a dramatic change in my career after being an operating theatre nurse for 5 years, you know.
Oh, yes.
And
wow.
It was a big change, but I think then when I went to music college, I went to the Guildhall School of Music and Drama in London. Mm-hmm. I knew exactly what I wanted out of it, and I was determined not to waste my time. I was also very lucky because at weekends, when I had free time, I'd go off and do agency nursing in Guy's Hospital or in Bart's Hospital, so I could earn money to pay my rent and pay for my music and buy the latest CDs, you know, which sadly the other students couldn't do because they didn't have any money. Right. But I was very fortunate, and, you know, thinking back, I broke my heart at the time when my father said, I really think you need a security, but gosh, you know, it was the best advice he ever gave me, because I've never been hungry and hopefully never will be.
Well, that was another thing I did want to ask you a little bit about your vocal training.
Yeah.
The question that singers are always interested in is, what kind of vocal training did you have?
Well, I still have it, actually. I still have my singing lessons, and I work as often as I can with my singing teacher, who's in Italian, called Laura Sarti, and then I go off to work with Ileana Kotrobash as well. Because Laura is a wonderful technician. She's terrific, and I know with the technique that we've developed over the years, I can sing if I'm ill, because she's taught me in a way to sort of sing over any sore throats or whatever one might have. I mean, sometimes you're so ill and you absolutely can't. But invariably, if it's something like a tonsillitis, you just lift that little soft palate, and send the sound over the top.
What a wonderful technique to have, to be
Yes.
able to do that.
Definitely. And you just, she just taught me to lighten the voice out and just use the sinuses that we have to sort of focus the sound out in that direction. I never think of my throat when I sing anyway. And also because I was a nurse in the operating department of the ear, nose and throat, I worked with a wonderful consultant who still looks after my vocal health. And, when I go for a checkup, it's great because he's so interesting, and I'm still so interested in medicine and in anatomy and physiology of this specific area, that we take the skull out and we examine the sinuses, and it's just so fascinating to see what these little pockets do. I mean, the spaces which have sort of paper thin bones around them, and this is what gives the voice the spin. Also makes the skull lighter. I mean, without sinuses, we wouldn't be able to lift our heads, quite honestly. But it's fascinating, and whenever he was operating, he'd say, because he used to come to my concerts when I sang as an amateur, he'd say, "Rebecca, look at this larynx, look at this normal larynx." And then maybe a week later, there was a larynx with a polyp on it, a diseased larynx, or with a nasty tumour. And he was always there teaching me. And, we talk about signs and symptoms to look for if one's vocal health isn't so good. And he's given me so many secret formulas to take, which are not drug-orientated. It's all natural ingredients that I take a gargle of occasionally if I need it, if I find I'm a little dry, or if I have to sing after flying. And, oh, gosh, he's like a little godsend.
I guess so. I'm amazed that other singers don't know about this or aren't finding out about such wonderful things. That's got to be an incredible help to you.
I don't think a lot of people realise how important it is to go and have a yearly checkup to make sure that your vocal cords are healthy, because, they should really look like the palest pink slipper satin. Or, ballet shoes. And they should be no darker than that. And they are so thin. And we have to bear in mind that they are muscles. And, the reason we need to do our exercises is, just like athletes, we need to train these muscles.
Right.
So it's very important that we don't abuse them and look after them, because we only ever get one pair.
Really? Can you put to rest for all time the myth that having a large body weight is helpful to the voice?
Well, I think I can, because I'm only about 112 pounds.
Indeed. But that's been an excuse for centuries.
But, there again, I think having a 112-pound body for someone who sings my repertoire is okay. I could never go and sing any of this Wagner repertoire with my body, because you'd never hear me. I think you need a little bit of meat on your bones, to give you that extra stamina for the Wagner operas, because the size of the orchestra is so large. But I think really the age of the large diva is coming to an end, and I know directors like slim singers if they can possibly have them.
Sure.
And why not?
Yeah.
Why not? And we all know it's much better for our health if we are a little slimmer.
Absolutely.
And it's better for that little heart.
So the self-indulgence excuse is coming to an end, then,
Yes,
is it?
I think it is.
Medically speaking, we know that.
But I think the reason we, do have a tendency to be overweight is because on the day of a performance, for instance, one might get up at 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock, then eat at about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, a complex carbohydrate, a pasta or something, which is going to give you energy. And then I can't eat very much before singing. I maybe eat bananas during the interval.
Oh.
Because they give you terrific energy. But then, the opera finishes at 11, 12 o'clock, and you're so hungry afterwards. What do? We all go out and eat.
Of course.
And then you go home and you go straight to bed, so you don't work off the calories.
Right.
And that's probably the reason we are slightly overweight.
I understand you do a television show in Wales. Tell us a bit about that.
Well, I've done 3 television series so far. I haven't done one this year because I haven't had time. I've been in America most of the year.
Busy here.
And had the time of my life, I must say. But it's been a wonderful opportunity to sing all different kinds of repertoire and to have my guests as my friends, on the programme, which has also been lovely, and we've been able to sing duets. And the nice thing about it is it's been filmed in a very modern way to try and make it as accessible as possible to people who maybe had not heard opera before. Mm-hmm. And we go off and about on location and film videos in luxurious places, or maybe not so many luxurious places. Mm-hmm. And it's had very good viewing rate, actually, and has been very successful. And,
So when are we going to get an opportunity to see it here?
Well, it would be nice if your classical music channel could buy it from, Welsh television, because it is the second series. We didn't do any links. The links are in Welsh.
Oh.
Yes, but they could be easily surtitled, or even we can dub over the links.
Sure.
And we have a rule actually on Welsh television that we can sing any language except English.
Oh, is that right? Oh, why is that?
It's just a policy of the company, because it's done for a Welsh-speaking channel, Channel 4, and it's the policy of the channel that we don't have any English on any arts programs, which is a shame because there are so many beautiful songs, but they translate them for me and then I sing them in Welsh.
Really?
Yes.
Really? Oh. Does Welsh work very well as a singing language?
Well, it can do. It's a very beautiful language, and I remember actually I had to learn Una voce poco fa from Barbia di Sevilla.
Oh, please, what does that translate into in Welsh?
Well, I had to sing it. Ileana Cotrubas had heard that I'd sang it in Welsh, and she made me sing the whole aria to her in Welsh, and it actually translates as Melys llais yn sainio sydd, sainio fel fy nghalon I. And
that's nice.
Yes.
Yeah, that's very nice.
It's a very lilting language.
Yes. Well, I was going to say, I hope if you do make it available to American television that you use subtitles instead of dubbing it, because we don't want to lose the wonderful Welsh. So subtitles would be fine.
Fine. We'll buy that.
Well, after you finish your run here of Zerlina and Don Giovanni, when will you be returning to the Bay Area? When can we look forward to your next concert?
Well, I don't really want to go home. That's the problem.
Don't. Please don't.
But we're talking about several projects for the future, and I must say they're all terribly exciting. So I'd get on the next plane back as soon as I could.
Oh, anytime. Please come back and sing for us anytime at all. It was really a joy going to the Opera House at one night and hearing a voice that I had not heard before and being absolutely enchanted, as was the whole of the audience.
Thank you. It's been a great pleasure to work here, I must say. Thank you.
Well, thank you for taking time to talk with us. We've been speaking with soprano Rebecca Evans.